I recently stumbled upon an article from 2015 on Wired's website. It's titled The Rapidly Disappearing Business of Design, and it's quite interesting. It describes the way design, in many of its forms, has changed in the past few decades, and it describes how the condition of designs and firms has shifted from becoming the traditional corporate environment, the office, into something more hybrid consistencies, and of course shedding its skin and changing appearance in order to survive the market. The article describes how the pioneering design of the companies that have gone through the phase of being bought by bigger names like McKinsey, that is this Californian company. McKinsey bought Luna Design in 2015. Luna Design still is one of the biggest names in industrial design and consultancy. They've done great objects, great design. And from the mid-80s, when it was founded, it has now been bought. And I don't know, it sounds like, and it looks like a major change into the corporate takeover that happens when we have big design firms being bought by even bigger design firms. So the trends in designs that are constantly changing, they do change like the wind. And you have that companies also have to be aware because the behaviors that play in societies into catching the next evolution, the next big thing. It is the essential motive and the reason why design companies should always be on the look. So we always have different design firms that were pioneers in the 90s, and some of them have found trouble adapting to the 21st centuries. Many didn't realize the fact that the traditional method of speaking to the client, listening to the client, developing the product and the process, the thinking, and moving on to the 21st century, it has drastically changed. So many of these companies that were doing extremely good 20, 30 years ago, they either were bought or shut down because the adaptation process into design has always been the fundamental ingredient in the survival of the markets. Because you can't have the same approach that you portray through the years and then suddenly you can't apply a 20, 30 years old philosophy into something that belongs in the 21st century and is set to stay in the future. It's not only about a product, like it could be a chair, it could be a fork, it could be a couch or a car. We're also thinking about design services and experiences. And designers nowadays, they tend to be more hybrid species. They don't focus entirely on one aspect. We have, for example, graphic designers who also focus on user experience, designing user interfaces, experiences for the design, as well as industrial design, the switch to user designs. They probably do half of their career services. Also, we have industrial designers that on a wider scale, they do become architects to meld down, to bind together the aspect of interior designer and the architecture. So this is why the condition of design has been changing. Different design firms that are no more with us did struggle, and what happened is that it was more of an internal process of understanding and acknowledging the times did change. Some design companies, for example, that went from graphic designs, they did not adapt fast enough to move into the digital area. But those who did suddenly realized that from the traditional 80s and 90s graphic design, moving over fast forward towards the digital design, and the market was overflowed, and suddenly we had so many positions for graphic design. Graphic design had always been in high demand, but the problem is always this, that there's sort of overflowing of graphic design into digital design. It becomes a commodity for the hiring process. What does it mean? So when suddenly you have a large availability of people graduating from school, from graphic design programs, or by themselves, the young designers, or they've been for quite a bit into the graphic design environment, suddenly we have this very disproportionate number compared to other designers. And what companies know that because they do the market research. So suddenly what we have, we're a company that posts advertisements on their websites, looking for like full-time junior positions for new people, or maybe internships. And I've noticed personally, and I'm sure many of you did the same, that the conditions are not as adequate as someone would think. So if you do look at those businesses who post ads looking for designers, and then you immediately notice like two big things. First of all, there's a staggering amount of requirements and qualifications, which if you do go ahead and read them, you have a huge amount of requirements, like extraordinary knowledge on the Adobe, would be Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, Acrobat, and so on. And on top of that, they always ask you to know coding. And on top of that, require a good portfolio, a good typography set of skills, and it continues to also have a proven track record of 5 or 7 plus years. And then the position is a junior position. And you have these people, this company, who do post their ads into school boards, into the students, undergraduate or postgraduate. It doesn't make them much of a difference. Students and people who need experience, who need a position to condensate, certify the experience and to go to the next step, are suddenly asked to have the experience of a senior designer, but with the paying of a junior position. So something below or at $40,000 per year. And I don't know if benefits like health and dental are even included. We don't know like bonuses, 401k or pension funds benefits are even mentioned. I've been in interviews, plenty of interviews throughout my life. Although you never discuss at the first meeting about the financial positions or the salaries and everything else, you do get the sense that the person interviewing you doesn't know that much on how to lay out a proposal. He asks the questions, listens to you, and suddenly what it has is let's try to understand what you can do for the company. Which is good, which is great. This is what the hiring department usually does. But what I do find a bit of unsettling and uncomfortable is that what can the company do for you? What kind of like interest in hiring you? Even if you go into the second stage, it's not always well defined how the company can help you grow. But you do sign up. You're happy, you're overjoyed because you got the job that you always wanted. It's a stable position. There's no more shades of grey where you have to freelance. You can suddenly pay your bills, so you can finally repay your student loans and so on. So you're improving your life moving forward, you're happy, but you think about what is the plan of the company for you in the next 5 years. Don't think in 10 years, that's too far ahead to the future. Think in the next 5 years. So when you are in your junior position and maybe moving into a mid-position, mid-senior position, intermediate position, and that so on. The company itself asks you to put a lot of effort because you have to do a promise. Now they think that just because they hire you, they invest in you. Well, they did somehow, but there has to be a path that leads you to perfecting your own skills. Now, schools, universities traditionally don't teach students how to use the Photoshop programs. Some colleges, some specific schools they do, and they have the certificate, which somehow this is what companies are looking after. So some people, they say, finish high school, go into this colleges, they give specific patterns to learn the Photoshop, whether it's like AutoCAD or things like that. And then they get the certification. And that it's very good because you have hands on the practical side of your profession. Whereas the classic approach to university, which allows you to think in a creative in patterns and to give you more of a philosophical approach through their academic performances. And this is a bit of like a conflict. So now the company hired you, you're just working. There's a tremendous amount of pressure because you want to deliver, you want to look good, you want to hold up your resume and your promises. And there's a lot of pressure that the company places into you. Deadlines in the design world are always around the corner. So little no time And one of the things that you see in these hiring hats is the fact that beside the requirements, what they do offer is a high-paced environment. That's not an offer, that's a condition, which it does happen everywhere pretty much. But it's not like you're offering anything. It's not something that of a commodity you can trade. The working environments becomes a surprise, and through the years, then you learn and you understand that there are gray areas of your work that are never specified. Because you have a contract that says and everything, but the cracks are still wide open for you to slip. And that also takes us into talking about the other condition when you need experience. Design need experience. They'll do anything to get such experience. So they go into internships. Internships has become, in my opinion, something close to a blasphemy. Yes, you do need an internship, but there are so many companies out there. They're out to get you through an internship. They ask you to work with the energy of a 40 hours per week, with the experience of 40 hours per week employee. Yet you're learning, because this is supposed to be your introduction or a step towards a full-time position. And now you have places that they hire you, they exploit you, unpaid internships, or they even have internship that leads to nowhere. So they take you, they let you work for like 3 months or 6 months, usually that's the time that's swing for an internship, and you work your butt off, and then suddenly, thank you, and then you go home. There's no contract, no opportunity for you to continue, and then you're back to square one, and that is revolting because you have nowhere to go. You're disappointed. You think that you failed because it was somehow your fault, but it wasn't. So what you do have is that companies do struggle, and they start exploiting people to balance their books. And I've seen plenty. I worked in the past when I was younger for companies that were scamming customers. They were just treating their employees as if they were some Siberian labor camp. And it is disappointing because there's bad practices into the business of design in their offices and in their headquarters. They do reflect on the poor internal qualities, eventually in their relationship with the client and the type of outcome, type of results they may or may not achieve. So designers in the last 10, 15 years, something like that, they have become hybrid. We were mentioning before the term that designers will become hybrid because you want to enhance the fact that you always have to adapt to the sudden changes that the market might throw in your face. So what you have is designers that have been hybrid, they become hybrid, facing the companies that have an expanded portfolio that crosses many fields. And then you have designers that adopt and reorganize their own skills to cater to the new demands of the industry. You have changes into the market. For example, we have IBM and General Electric that have been hiring 1,000 designers each. And they started the process where the corporation are moving towards their own design. Whether before there were companies that came to conclusion that say, we need a design firm, we need a designer, we need somebody that can express our own values, we need someone who can draw our campaign ads, our posters, they can lay down the blueprint for our cars or a project, something that, concept. Now it's changing. So we have this big corporation that they will start growing in their own lab, their own design department, so they don't have to go and outsource it somewhere else. So before it was an interface with design firms, but now the game has changed. So the interdisciplinary movements of companies and designers, they're moving all the directions. And now you're hearing news like Apple and Google that also hiring automotive designers. And these companies are working on delivering different types of products. For example, Apple working towards the Apple car. Google as well, so self-driving cars. So they're both investing hundreds of millions towards new technologies. They don't need any more software designers, software engineers. They need automotive designers. And this opened the market for new job opportunities, new market and enterprise opportunities. So a company that makes phones, smartphones, iPods, pocketable things, that is hiring somebody across, maybe from Europe, somebody who was working probably for Audi or Mercedes or BMW or Fiat necessarily works with Apple making a car. So it is happening already. When we spoke in the previous episode about the self-driving cars with Google's and Fiat collaborating to deliver the next generation of cars. And it is exciting because things are now changing. Technology is exponentially growing, shrinking, becoming more powerful, and it gives us the ability to see everything else, the horizon of design, throughout different lens. One other thing that did change the design world and the marketplace for designers and firms is the democratization of web designs and development. So what happened is that the major force that has been driving the current wave in this change in the last 10 years or so was this very big, let's call it ecosystems of open platforms that empowered people to become their own company. So we have dedicated companies that were running projects that cost them to develop thousands of dollars, and it takes time. Now it's based upon the individuals that is paying whatever small fee on a monthly basis to lease the Adobe software package. The design environment changed quite a bit in the last 30 years, and now we see that the future has more than one side, more than one sort of like path. So then again, we have the hybrid conclusion to when the designer came to adapt to the market, to become flexible. And then also we have the changes that companies do bring. So now companies and corporations will have their own design departments. That before was something that it was very, very unthinkable. But then again, Apple, Google, they're now making cars, which means that if technology continues to change as fast as it's doing now, who knows? Maybe in the future we can see Microsoft and air transportation, maybe Apple doing the same. Who knows? And we can also draw some conclusion that lies in that. If Apple moves into the automotive to expand its operation, to diversify its portfolio, which is a good thing, we can also see other big companies doing. So then again, the markets do change. It'll be very exciting to see what the next 5 years are going to show us. And hope we see positive changes. Who knows?